welcome back to my channel for a full, comprehensive, unsponsored, honest review of my OURA ring. This is a video I didn't know if y'all would like to see, so I did a poll on Instagram and overwhelmingly you said yes. So I know this is a more niche video, but for those of you that wanted to see it, this is for you. This is something that I bought myself about 6 months ago and I've worn almost every day for the last 6 months. So I have thoughts. I've divided up my thoughts by the health things that I like and I dislike about this ring, and then also the functionality things, from like actually wearing it to charging it to the app, that I like and I dislike about this ring. I think what I want to do first is do a little screen recording and walk you through the app so you can see everything that I see. And then when I explain all the things I like and dislike, you'll have a bit of context in case you haven't seen this app before. I also do want to say that the reason I got the ring is mostly to track health. I'm an autoimmune girl. I have lupus amongst other things. And so I was mostly wanting to see like flares, if I could manage the flares that I was getting. And so I am not like an athlete or anything of the sorts. And I know a lot of people that want this ring are training and like exercising like crazy. That is not me. So take that with a grain of salt. This is my perspective. So let's start on the home screen. To be honest, I never really go here. There doesn't seem to be a lot of things that are really actually helpful here that I can't see under the other tabs. So let's first go to readiness. I don't use this tab as often, but I have been using it more lately because I have noticed my HRV balance has been flagged. This is something interesting that I didn't know what it was because it takes a while before it even shows you the stat. It has to learn your heart rate for a while, and then it will start to tell you if it is, you know, variance in it, which can indicate stress either mentally or physically. So for me, I've been opening this readiness tab because, as you can see, you can scroll through the past few days and see how all of your stats vary day to day. But my HRV balance for me has been bad for a while. And there has been some stressful things happening in my world, so it's interesting to watch that. But under this readiness tab, you can see things like your body temperature, how that fluctuates. You can see your resting heart rate, your respiratory rate, heart rate variability, and it just kind of compiles some of your sleep data into just how you're gonna be feeling for the day. Next, sleep. This is probably what I check the most. As you can see last night, I did good, but I did not do great. I didn't get a optimal crown like I did the night before. But you can see that your time in bed, how much you actually slept, total sleep, efficiency. Something that I think is interesting is the latency. So that's how quickly you fall asleep. And then you can actually see on a timeline your deep sleep, light sleep, REM, and awake. And I think this is interesting because you could tell like at, let's see, probably 2:15 a.m. I got up to pee. And so that's why there's a little awake there. But you can also scroll between day and day and see how it looks. So for me, I found this interesting because pretty much all of my deep sleep happens the first half of the night. And after that, I don't really get a ton of deep sleep anymore. So like that's something I had no idea until seeing it. And then lastly, activity. Activity, I think, well, clearly I've not been active this week. Activity I think is really interesting because you can see your calories, total burn, how much walking, how many steps, and then you can also see it on a timeline. So like here's yesterday, I got a lot of low activity and you can see my walking is spread throughout. And I did not leave home yesterday and I walked 7.4 miles. Lastly, explore. I never go to. There's meditations, breathing, sleeping things, learning things. Honestly, I should explore this more. I just realistically haven't. So that's the layout. Now let's get into my thoughts. Let's talk about the health data. Things that I like is it encourages me to sleep, especially when it rewards you with that crown. If you are an achiever like me, there's a goal and I want to achieve it. And so just seeing that little like motivation and encouragement and trying to get that crown every day does actually encourage me to like prioritize sleep. I think it's interesting to know that like the amount of time that I think I'm asleep is not actually how much sleep I'm getting. So pretty consistently, I get an hour less of sleep than I thought I was getting. If I'm in bed for 9 hours, I'm actually getting 8 hours of sleep. So that has been awesome to learn. I've also noticed just by tracking my health in particular, the earlier I go to bed, the more deep sleep I get. The later I go to bed, the less deep sleep I get. Why? I don't know, but I've just noticed that pattern. So I do really like being able to see those patterns and then implement them into my life. Something else I like is this does remind me to stand up when I need to stand up. And I think that that's just a good reminder, because you could just be in a work zone and not realize an hour, 2 hours has gone by and you haven't moved at all. I've started physical therapy and she's told me the importance of standing up every 20 minutes. This probably reminds you every hour, I'd say. I don't actually know, but it feels like every hour without moving. So that has been helpful as well. Something else I really like is it tracks so many steps around the house that otherwise your phone wouldn't pick up. I know your phone obviously tracks how many steps you're taking when you have it on you. So when you have it in a fanny pack and you're on a walk around the neighborhood, it's tracking your steps, great. But there are so many steps I take around the house when my phone is on the counter that my phone just doesn't track. I have an example of, I just moved recently, and the day that I was unpacking boxes, I did not step outside once. And I walked 13 miles in my 1,500 square foot home. But like, that's a lot of health data that my phone would not have caught because my phone was not on me. It was just me in my house walking around for 13 miles. I will also say knowing your heart rate has been very interesting, because that can correlate with not only activity, but also just stress. I think it was helpful because I had this ring on when I was in the hospital. I had to go to the hospital for a few days, and the nurses told me, hey, your heart rate is kind of high. Do you know if that's normal for you? And I was able to show them, oh, here's all of the last, couple weeks, my average resting heart rate every single day. And they were able to say, okay, you just have a high resting heart rate. So I guess this is normal for you and we don't need to be concerned. So that was something that was actually very helpful, because otherwise they would have maybe been concerned about my heart rate. And then I also love to just see sleep on a timeline. I think that that is interesting. You don't get to see things like that very often. Something I dislike is one of the main reasons that I bought this ring is I knew it could track your temperature. And I know a lot of people use this to track their fertility because it tracks your basal body temperature. But all it gives you is your basal temperature plus or minus half a degree Fahrenheit or whatever that is, and by day. Something that I was aware of is me and my autoimmune conditions is randomly in the evening I would spike like a pretty high fever for a few hours. And so I was hoping to kind of track that to get more information on my overall health statistics to see what causes me to spike random fevers, but it doesn't tell you that. It only tells you your average basal body temperature for the day, and it doesn't say, hey, your temperature today was 99 degrees. It says, hey, your temperature today was +5 Fahrenheit. And then the only other thing I dislike about the health data is I do think it can kind of get in your head a little bit. If you wake up feeling fine, but then if you check your statistics and you see, oh, I didn't get enough deep sleep, you might start to tell yourself, I'm not gonna feel well rested today, I'm gonna be tired, I'm gonna be groggy, and then you might just kind of make yourself feel that way by just thinking that you will. So sometimes I do think ignorance is bliss, and maybe being over aware of your own health stats and data might be detrimental to the way you feel. I don't know. That probably depends per person, but that's just something I'm kind of aware of. And let's talk about the functionality of the ring, the charging, the app, the things that I like and the things that I don't like. First off, likes is the battery life is so long. I'm so impressed. They say it can last up to 7 days. I did notice that when I was in the hospital for 3 days, it was totally fine. I normally charge it a little bit every day, but it was totally fine. I think our neighbors are now power washing their house. So sorry. We're finishing this video in here because it's further away from the power washing. The lighting is worse, the audio is better. Welcome to my brain as a YouTuber. Long battery life. That is really amazing because if you do go on a trip for just a few days, you don't have to worry about bringing your charger. It's probably gonna last, it's probably gonna be fine. Also, speaking of charging, the charging station is very quick. I'm surprised. All I do is I plop my ring on when I shower. So, 10 minutes maybe. Some days 5 minutes, some days 15 minutes, depending on if it's a hair washing day. I'll just plop it on the little charger, take my shower, put it back on, and I've never had a battery issue. That's the only time I really charge it. Next, it is comfy to sleep in terms of the way it feels. It's very smooth, whereas like, for example, a traditional ring, like my engagement ring, I don't love to sleep in it because sometimes I'll fall asleep like this and it's pointy and it will just like, you'll feel it, it'll wake me up. And this is just smooth and easy to sleep in, which I do like. And lastly, the app is pretty easy to navigate. If you don't understand what a metric or a statistic means, you can click on it and it will give you more info about this is what this means, this is how this is measured, and that is pretty helpful. So I've been able to learn like the HRV, the heart rate variance, why that's measured, how it's measured, and what it means, how it can be correlated to something in your life. Dislikes, I will say I don't love how bulky it is. I wish, and I'm sure technology will continue to progress and it will get thinner, but I wish that there was a thinner option. As you can see, like when I close my hand, there is space between my fingers can't fully close because it is a little bulky there. And also because of that, I feel like I can't wear rings on adjacent fingers because the way it hits. So I do feel very limited. This brings me to my next point. I feel very limited in my jewelry choices. Sadly, most of the rings that I own that are special that I want to wear fit on this finger. And this only really fits on my pointer finger or this ring finger. I don't like wearing it on this hand because I feel like it takes away from my engagement ring. And then when I wear it on this hand, I can't wear all of my personal rings that I would like to wear. If you're a jewelry person, I do feel like it really limits your jewelry ability, the rings that you can wear, because basically you can only really wear rings on the fingers it's not near. If you were to put on your middle finger, that really limits it. Maybe that's just me. Something interesting about it is when it's taking your metrics, some of them, it will glow red or it will glow green. And it normally does this when you're resting or sleeping. I don't know which color is measuring what, but it is funny that sometimes the glow is so bright coming from inside the ring that it will wake me up. Because if I'm sleeping with my hand near my head or whatever, the light will be in my eyes. Another thing functionality-wise that I think could be improved is in the morning, it takes quite a while to sync with the app. I say quite a while, like maybe sometimes a minute, 60 seconds. But it does feel like you open it up and it's just pending. It's pending and you're like, wake up, I'm awake. Why aren't you awake? Functionality-wise, my ring is starting to show a little wear and tear after 6 months. I got the gold ring and you can see that it is getting scratched. You might not be able to see on camera, but you can see some like silver kind of peeking through under the gold. And that does make me worry about, as I continue to have this longer and wear it more, will that become more noticeable? I don't know. Something else I dislike. I think it's a bummer when you pay so much money for something and then you have to continue to pay monthly for a subscription in order to even use it. The subscription for OURA Ring isn't a lot. It's like $5.95, so basically $6 a month. But still, I feel like when you spend hundreds of dollars on a device that you need an app for the device to even work, it does feel a little bit disappointing to then have to pay for the app every single month after already making such a big investment. And one last thing I will say is I have the cheaper version, which has the flat top, I don't know if you can see, and then rounded sides. The more expensive version, to my knowledge, the only difference is it's fully flat and round all the way around. I will say I actually love having the flat top because the sensors inside the ring are on one side on the bottom and have to be under your finger like this. So having the flat top helps me just kind of keep track if my ring is on straight and if it is measuring the way it's supposed to. Because sometimes it gets twisted and you can't really feel the sensors on the inside. So I think if I were to have the more expensive, nicer ring, it would be crooked all the time and I wouldn't know and it wouldn't be properly collecting my data and my metrics. So telling you that as permission to get the cheaper version, I actually think it's better. I don't think the technology is different inside each one, but correct me if I'm wrong. Overall, I really, really do like it. Those are my honest thoughts about the things I like and I dislike. I'm sure it's even more helpful and useful if you are an athlete, if you are training, if you're trying to track exactly how many calories you've burned and how many minutes you're in a high heart rate zone or whatever that is. For me, I'm just trying to not get sick as often. So it has encouraged me to sleep and it has encouraged me to assess kind of stress in my life because my heart rate doesn't lie. Even if I tell myself I'm fine, my metrics could say, hey, this is actually too much for you, and it will encourage me to cut back or cut out some things that might be stressing me out. I don't work with them in any way, shape, or form. I don't have any sort of discount or commission yet. I've been emailing them like crazy asking if I can get a discount or anything for any of you guys. So if I do, I will link it in the description, but if it's not there, it means I was unsuccessful. I always try my best. I love y'all. I hope you have the best rest of your day. If you have any of your own thoughts about the OURA Ring, if you own it, feel free to put them down below. We can create a little community resource for whoever's interested. And I will see you guys in a video very soon. Bye.